Welcome to Kevin Richards VIPs. My guest this week is a man who's as passionate about his food and his family as he is this community. He's as cool as his martinis. My guest this week is Marco Ormonde. We're sitting in the beautiful North Restaurant in downtown Barrie. I'm sitting with Marco Ormonde. Marco, this place is beyond decadent and beautiful. Everything about this place exudes comfort and style, so congratulations on that.
Thank you very much.
I love where you've come with this, and I'm really looking forward to getting to know you today. So, Marco, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Tell me a little bit about where all this came from. You started off where, in Toronto?
I started off working at Pearson International when I was 12 years old in the kitchen.
At the airport?
At the airport. I was a dishwasher, and when it got slow, I started to go and help the cooks because there was nothing for me to do if there was no dishes to do, and more and more I started getting involved in the kitchen.
Well, there's a message for dishwashers right away. Those guys washing the dishes, work your way up because this is where you could be.
I enjoyed working in the kitchen, got into it more and more. Was offered an apprenticeship at the age of 16.
Yeah.
Started my apprenticeship program, and all of a sudden, I felt like I needed to go somewhere where I can learn more on the higher end of things. I went to go work at a restaurant called Bonanotte way back in the days in Toronto. And the more I started to learn, the more I started to fall in love with it. Because people think cooking is just cooking. Put a steak on the barbecue, you're cooking.
It's creative and it's passion.
It's creative, it's passion. Yeah. There's so much more to it. It's such an amazing thing. And worked at quite a few restaurants, worked my way up to becoming the executive chef at I think my first executive chef job was at Hemispheres in the Metropolitan Hotel.
I remember Hemispheres.
Yeah, I was the executive chef there for about 4 years, and then you're 26 years old and 28 years old, and it's like, what is the next challenge? Hemispheres was running really well. It was considered one of Toronto's top restaurants,
and you were getting huge accolades back then,
absolutely,
too.
Absolutely. We got reviewed as one of Toronto's top restaurants. We got rated 4 stars out of 5 by Toronto Life and a few other magazines.
Cool.
And then it's like, so I need the next challenge. So I was approached by the distillery district to go run the whole district, which was back then was Boiler House, Beer Spirits, Canteen, and all the patios.
Yeah, the old Boiler House, cool.
Yeah, so it was a very big place to run. We did well, so we were getting good reviews on there, and I always needed to do something different. It was about trying to see what haven't I done, what can I do to get better.
Yeah.
So I had never done a big hotel, and going to the Delta Chelsea at the time. The Delta Chelsea was the biggest hotel in the British Commonwealth. For food, we used to do sometimes 10,000 meals a day. So
wow,
it was challenging that way.
How many people in the kitchen?
In the kitchen, we probably had 160 in the kitchen and about 60 in stewarding.
Wow.
And so I was in charge of all that. I did that for a while, but doing that volume wasn't as much fun for me because I would spend the whole day managing, and then I'd go down to the fine dining room and spend 4 or 5 hours cooking, just because I come from a small restaurant background. I really enjoy the cooking part of it.
The personal side of it,
the personal side of it. I didn't enjoy managing as much as I enjoyed cooking.
Yeah.
So then I left there to go be the executive chef at a place called Monsoon.
Monsoon?
Which was right downtown on Adelaide. And
not to sound like a total restaurant goer in the city, but I lived there for a while too, and I remember traveling around to some of these restaurants, and Monsoon was fun too.
Oh yeah, it was a beautiful restaurant.
Yeah.
Worked at Monsoon for about a year and a half. Again, we were doing really well there, but I was commuting. I was living in Barrie at the time, and the commute on the highway was getting worse every year.
Yeah, well, you get that winter snowfall between Barrie and Bradford.
Exactly.
We live north of the wall. It's bad.
So I started to think about opening up something in Barrie.
Yeah, and so that spark got you, okay, you're going to open up this restaurant, but. And this is going to sound funny, and it's certainly not an insulting question, but what made you choose the corner that you did, of all places in downtown Barrie, when it is sort of it's a shifty kind of sketchy spot?
Well, I mean, it's the actual.
It's not here, the first place.
Absolutely, but yeah. the actual restaurant itself was a cute little restaurant.
Yeah, it was.
I understand what the corner was, but I come from I used to work at a place called Splendidos as a cook way back in the days. And so Splendidos used to be on Harvard. And we would walk out of work, and there would be a lot. This is before the university renovated. And we'd walk out of work, and there'd be a lot worse things happening than what's happening on Mary Street. So
Yeah.
but the restaurant was still very busy. So if you build it, and if you bring good people around, if you build it, people will come. And so if you
That makes
provide
sense.
good food, good service, people will come. Doesn't matter where you are.
So what was it about that space? You walked in, it was cute and cozy, but
Cute and cozy.
what was that spark when you walked in there that made you realize that it was the right spot?
It was cute and cozy. I had an open kitchen. My goals have changed over the years. And when I first opened up in Barrie, it was just like, I just want to do good food and be happy. And so, I don't care about being that busy. I want to make enough to make a living to provide for my family.
Well, you nailed that.
So
You definitely nailed that. So how long were you there?
I was there for 5 years, and then my lease was up, and this building came up for sale before the 5 years, and so I bought the building. The owners who owned the building were very nice to me, and they helped me out quite a bit, and so bought the building, gutted it all out, renovated it all, and I did a lot of the work myself. So I'd be cooking till 10, 11 o'clock at night, then leave the restaurants and come here and cut walls and a lot of these things I had a lot of help from a lot of friends.
So it opened in phases.
It opened up in phases. So we opened a lot of help with a lot of friends.
Nice.
And my parents as well.
Well, what people can't see on the camera right now, and I welcome them to come and check this place out, because even architecturally, you've done a fantastic job. The patio in the summertime, and the beautiful steel work out front, and the inside is fantastic. And again, that's not even the food, which is over the top decadent, right? So, what is your favorite part about being here now? What's your best thing, other than you've obviously got more seating?
Well, more seating. I own the building. I'm very pleased to be and live and to be a part of this community. We have an amazing downtown, an amazing community of people. People that are not just guests in my restaurant, but a lot of them have become really good friends.
Yeah.
So I am so privileged and pleased to have such a great surrounding of people around.
It's nice to be able to walk through downtown Barrie and see people you know or who've been to your restaurant, and they just give you a quick hi, I enjoyed this meal, or even just a smile, and it's that downtown Barrie feel.
Absolutely. Downtown Barrie has such a bad reputation when really we have such a great downtown.
But what's funny is I think that's part of that whole, you put 10 people in a room, 9 of them want to talk about what's going wrong with something, and one person's trying to talk about the good stuff, and it's hard.
You're absolutely right.
It is kind of fun to talk about the gossip, but people should take more time and just talk about the good stuff.
Absolutely. We definitely should, because these days all there is bad news.
There's a ton of bad news.
Let's just enjoy the good news. So let's talk more about the good news and not so much the bad news.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. So what's your favorite thing to make when you're here? What is your favorite meal to make, or some of the favorite things you love to make?
I enjoy cooking seafood. Being Portuguese background,
Yeah.
I enjoy making seafood. I believe I can cook anything wild. I went to a restaurant that was supposed to be making their own charcuterie, and I saw that they weren't making their own charcuterie, so I went crazy one day and just made 4 or 5 different types of charcuterie, and now we have our own charcuterie. When it's done, because I don't know if I'm going to do it again, but I probably will.
It's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, and you have to wait for it, 3, 4, 5 months for it to be ready. So it's a lot of work.
Well, you were doing Kobe's, and that's a lot of work, and that's a lot of patience too, isn't it?
Oh yeah, it's just knowing how to cook it, because every time you burn a Kobe steak, I was fortunate enough to cook the first 2 that came to Canada.
Yeah.
I was working at a restaurant in Richmond Hill, and these guys brought in Kobe, and they're like, we don't want you to season it, we don't want you to do anything. Just put it on the grill, cook it. They're like, this steak costs about $150 a piece, each steak.
Wow.
And so I'm like, okay, I better not screw this up. And so I cooked it for them, and they let me try it, and it was a beautiful thing. But that was the first 2 that I ever brought to Canada.
Very cool.
From actual Japan.
That's cool. So I love that you're very innovative and creative, but being innovative and creative and putting the time in, you're here a lot. So what is that like? And you gotta, it's tough, being an entrepreneur and providing and making all these crazy things. What is that like for you as a dad and as a, a recently married man. What's that like for you at home?
Well, I mean, you have to have good people, good family to help you, support you, because you're never home that much. My son, I don't see him as often as I'd like to. And so a lot of times he comes here, and he sits here at the bar with me. Even last night he was sitting here at the bar with me for about an hour or so.
Yeah.
And my wife was having a glass of wine, and so it's about the two-way street. People have to make the effort to see each other. And it's about making the best out of the little times you have, because you don't have a lot.
Quality, not quantity.
Absolutely.
Nice. So what is your favorite thing to do then when you're not here? What's the Marco happy place when you're outside of your restaurant? What is it you love to do? What's your other passion?
I enjoy fishing. I enjoy, I stand, I take my little boat in the middle of the lake and I sit there and I look at the beautiful things that nature have, like, beautiful trees, beautiful colors, and, all those things. So I enjoy fishing as I'm fishing. It gets you thinking about life as well. It gets you thinking about what tomorrow's specials are going to be and things like that.
Nice. Well, that solitude sometimes is the best thing for you. Like, people need to realize that they need to be alone. People are scared to be alone sometimes, and taking that alone time to sit out on a fishing boat, either you're by yourself or maybe with your son or however, and just enjoy that time to collect, right, to regroup and recharge. Because you're a dynamic guy. You do so many things, including with the community. So you've been involved in so many things, from just even small things like being out and sampling apple pies at a retirement home to being involved in different charities. What are some of the favorite things you've been doing around town?
Some of the favorite things, we do quite a bit for the Women and Children Shelter. I also
Great cause.
Absolutely, and we're trying to start a charity. Myself and a friend of mine, we're trying to start a charity for mental health, so that we can make mental health something that's more upfront and not so in the background. There's a lot of issues, and when you see that there's people with, there's people with money that end up taking their own lives, and little kids. There was a great program on TV like a couple of years ago about a little kid at like 5 or 6 years old. He might have been older, but took his own life. So it's definitely something that we need to figure out how we can work on that. Maybe it's getting more attention to them earlier. Maybe it's getting more doctors in the area that are
it's a big checklist of things. There's a big checklist of a lot of things to fix that.
Absolutely.
Really. And I think people need to understand that being depressed is okay.
Absolutely.
But staying there is not.
Exactly.
Right? But that depression, it's amazing how common it is nowadays, and it's okay.
Absolutely.
So good for you for doing that. What are some of the other things you're doing around town? Because I see you at Taste the World. I see your name at different different events around town.
Well, I pretty much get involved in everything. Again, as much as you can give back to the community, because we have such a great community, as much as we can give back. We did the film festival in here last night. There's all these things that we do. We do Curb Appeal, which is, again, trying to promote downtown.
Tell me a bit about that, because the Curb Appeal is a really neat event.
Oh, it's Curb Appeal has done amazing. It's an event that it's like we can't. It keeps growing every year, and we can't basically, like, as soon as we announce one for the next year, it sells out.
Yeah.
And so Curb Appeal is a way to try to promote downtown Barrie, and whatever money we raise, most of it goes to a charity that we pick for that year.
Yeah.
And so we get 5 of Barrie's chefs, and myself and Randy are usually the ones heading it. So, and then
Randy from the farmhouse.
Yes.
/pie/ everywhere entrepreneur.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we're the ones that usually head that, and we get 3 other chefs involved, and it's usually. It's a lot of fun. Everybody does one course. We all have a good time. We all have worked together.
I've tried to get tickets. You guys are always selling out so fast. The one year that I think was cool, you did it out in the government dock, the old government dock. And so there was, 50 tables or 100 tables or whatever throughout the dock. And it was at a big outdoor event, and it was awesome.
It was pretty chilly, but everybody had a great time.
I heard that.
And trying to heat food, it wasn't pretty on the dock. But we did it. We pulled it off. We did it somehow.
So what do you find are some of the challenges nowadays, though, for a restaurant to be successful? Because restaurants, honestly, you look through some newspapers or you look online, people still check newspapers, that there's restaurant equipment for sale because some restaurant failed here and there. What do you find is your key to your success here?
I think I just have to work harder than everybody else. It's being creative and willing to work hard. You have to because the restaurant business is not a 9 to 5 job. The restaurant business is not a Monday to Friday job. The restaurant business is whenever people are here to eat, you have to be here for them. So if it's, if it means that I get here at 8 in the morning and I don't leave here till 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock if we have to clean up and everything else, it is what it is.
Yeah.
And most people go into the restaurant business not understanding the restaurant business.
Yeah.
And that's the hardest part is, if you've never done a restaurant business from the outside looking in, it looks glamorous and fun. When you actually have to work it, it's tough.
Yeah, I can see that because I've come in here, and even to try and get your attention through the window, you're busy, but you do come out and you ask people how they're doing, and you're social with the people here because you genuinely care about how the meal's going.
Oh, absolutely.
Because it's not about making a buck and getting them in and out. It's about coming in, and this is an experience.
And not really that. It's like people that worry about making a buck today, making too much money today, they won't be here tomorrow. You're here for the long term. You don't get rich off owning a restaurant. You have so many expenses. You just want to make sure that the best part about being a chef is making people feel happy. Making people enjoy the food.
Yeah.
And when you see that happiness, you feel proud. It's like, well, I've done something that they enjoyed.
Yeah.
And that's the best part about being a chef.
That's a great feeling.
It's such a great feeling. There's no better feeling in the world.
I've seen people in your restaurant actually almost look like they're looking for a moment of quiet at their table because they're enjoying their meal so much. It's like, don't talk to me. It's like this ethereal moment where they are like floating above themselves, watching themselves eat your food. Like there's a passion to it, and you can see it in people's reactions to how they're eating.
Well, I mean, one of the perfect example is like last night we had a table in here and they'd never been here before, and they just moved up from Toronto, and they have tons of friends, and they're like, oh, we don't really know Barrie that well, and we happened to walk by your restaurant and came in, and they're like, wow, we didn't realize that Barrie had some amazing restaurants that, we coming from Toronto, we thought we were going to have to go to Toronto every week for dinner. But now that we're figuring out Barrie, we're really enjoying the restaurant scene in Barrie, which is phenomenal.
Barrie's got some great experiences.
Barrie's got some great restaurants, great experiences for the size of city that we are. I'm very proud of the restaurateurs we have in Barrie.
Yeah, and I think one of the biggest compliments I see about your restaurant too is when I've come in here, even just for a glass of wine with some friends, is I'll look over and I'll see other restaurant owners eating here before they go back to their restaurant or whatever. That to me is a big compliment. When you see people who also own other bars or restaurants downtown Barrie that come here.
Absolutely. We, like I said, we have a great restaurant community. We're all friends. We all go to each other's restaurants. We all try to support each other because we understand that not every day you're going to want to come to the North for dinner. Some nights you're going to try somewhere else. There's nothing wrong with that.
No. I think that's good.
Absolutely.
Camaraderie. So the other thing I think that is wonderful about your place, I keep talking about all the wonderful things because honestly, it's so much fun coming here, is you've got great staff. And that has a lot to say about you as well too, because being a leader again, and this is something that I've noticed too, is some of the people I've spoken to in other businesses that make their entrepreneurship successful is they've got a team, having that support system. So not just a support system at home, but a support system here to make it work.
For sure. I mean, a lot of my staff have been with me for a very long time. I got 2 servers that have been with me since, it's been 10 years since I've been in Barrie. They've been with me for 10 years. I have one that's been with me for about 4 years, and the other one about 3 years. The kitchen staff, 2 of them are over 5 years, and the rest of them are 2 or 3 years into it. So it's like for a restaurant, our staff doesn't really leave. So they all, because we try to treat them all like their family. This is a part of the family. It's not just my restaurant, it's all their restaurants.
Well, if they don't do a good job, nobody's coming back and they'll be out of work.
Absolutely. We'll all be out of work.
Yeah, and that's not good. So there's got to be, and I know we're having a lot of fun talking about this, but there's got to be a time though where things get tough and things might get almost depressing, or you might get just kind of bummed out because you're either working too hard or you do just kind of get run down and maybe get sick. As much as you try to eat right and be happy and healthy and optimistic, there's got to be times where things just get tough. How do you get through that either slow business time, or how do you get through the tough times when things are just kind of I'm wiped out.
You know what? The tough time is when you have a bad night, where you try to please everyone, but you didn't please someone, and you know about it, and it didn't go out right, and you feel it. It feels like it's the end of the world. It feels like the world's going to end that night, and so you get pretty down on yourself about it. And then the next morning you're still down on yourself, but at least it feels like it's a new day, and you're moving forward. The slow times, you know that there's slow times. You know that the slow times will come every so often, and you know that they're going to be over. So because we've been here for 10 years, I know roughly when the slow times are going to be, when the busy times are going to be. So we sort of prepare for that.
Yeah, but that's not easy to do. So is that something that you find you're finding at home? Do you find that your wife is helping you get through a lot of this too, or just that spark from seeing your son? Or is it something you try to harness here in the restaurant and try and embrace and do something
It's a bit
different?
of everything. It's family. It's it's having great staff who understand and support you. It's having great family behind you. My wife, my son. So it's all those things.
Yeah. When you have your spare time, do you ever find you're watching cooking shows? Do you ever watch cooking shows, or do you think that this is just kind of crazy?
Sometimes I don't really watch too much cooking shows. Reason for it is because it's like anything else. Those cooking shows are made for TV,
Yeah.
and not really for like restaurateurs and restaurants. Everybody needs. You know what I find myself watching a lot is like the nature channels.
Yeah. The
Yes.
chill out kind of stuff.
The chill out
embrace
stuff.
the environment kind of stuff.
Exactly.
That's good. So then what is the next thing for you? What's your next thing you want to progress to, or what's next for you? You've got some other opportunities, some other places you're looking at expanding?
Yeah, but I bought a building in Midland, I think last year. We're probably going to be putting a restaurant, more of a Canadian style bar.
Canadian style.
Canadian style pub. That's what I want it to be. I want it to be
Are they
fun.
going to Toux?
I want it to be fun Canadian. Why not? Toux is a great idea. A fun Canadian pub. Because you know what? There's every kind of. There's an Irish pub. There's an English pub. There's this to that. Why not a Canadian pub?
You know what? It's funny because Canadians, we're a proud but humble kind of bunch, aren't we? We're so polite. We like to kind of do our own thing.
Not proud enough.
We should. I think we're pretty patriotic, but not as patriotic, loud, robust like the Americans. But we are patriotic because you tell me that when you see an American win something or a Canadian win something in the Olympics, you're like, hey, good for the Americans. But when the Canadians win, you're crying. You cry to the national anthem. That's what we do.
I wasn't born in this country. I came here at 10 years old. I'm a Canadian citizen. I love this country like I was born here. And so it's always, how do I do more for Canada? How do we promote more Canada? How do we get people to feel about people that were born and raised here?
Yeah.
Get them to feel like I feel about Canada.
Wow. And it's funny because if you start to talk about being Canadian, you try not to talk in the political aspect because politics nowadays, Canadian-wise, you don't want to talk about. But people, I think, need to experience more Canadian because we're really good at laughing at ourselves. We laugh about our poutine. We laugh about our Toux and our take-off a hoser kind of attitude, right? But you launching a restaurant that's going to be Canadian-themed, it can't be just back bacon and Toux. What's your play on it? What do you think you're going to do with it?
Well, you know what? We think of Canada as being back bacon. We think of Canada as being just poutine. We're surrounded by two oceans.
Yeah.
We have seafood. We have seafood from the Atlantic Ocean and the Pacific
three.
Ocean.
You got the Arctic, yeah.
The Arctic as
we
well.
forget about it.
It's way up there.
No, it's almost Russia.
But we have this massive country that raises lamb, cows, moose, deer, bear. We have all these things, but yet we think of our food as just being these simple things.
Yeah. Canadians think it's a burgers and fries kind of country.
No, it's not.
And it's not because, honestly, we're 90% of the world's freshwater. We've got incredible ability that if anybody did want to just shut off all the borders, we're probably one of the countries that has the best chance of just surviving on our own because we've got everything. So you could have a lot of fun with that.
Well, absolutely. We have all of Canada. And all of Canada doesn't mean that it's just going to be poutines, and it doesn't mean it's just going to be back bacon. We have, like I said, we have three oceans.
We have bison.
We have bison.
And the best salmon.
Whatever we want. So why do we think of Canadian food as being this terrible thing? We have so many fresh ingredients that we can use from here.
That's fun. That's a really cool idea. Good for you.
It'd be fun.
So, other than that, what else is on your plate?
This year we've done so many caterings, and we have so many still to do. So there's a lot going on.
Now, what about charity events and stuff coming up? What have you got on the go for those? What's busy on your agenda? Because your holiday seasons are always going to be crazy too, I'm sure.
Well, the charity events we have going on right now, I'm not even sure, to be honest with you. I know there's one or two that I'm supposed to be doing, but I think of things week by week.
Yeah.
Because there's so much going on. We have one coming up at BMW, but I try to think of things week by week because I'm an over worrier. So when I look at my week and how busy it is, until everything's perfect, I stress out.
Yeah.
Because I want everything to go perfect. So I overstress, and then so that's why I try to look at it as week by week. Because if I look too far ahead, it's like, oh, there's so much going on. How am I going to pull this off? When I go week by week, it's like, okay, I have to worry about this week. Let's get this week out of the way, and then we'll work on next week.
That makes sense. So what would be your message then to the people that are trying to become restaurant owners or are interested in getting into this business? What would you say to them to inspire or encourage them to make it work? Or what sort of things should they watch out for?
Definitely find out more about it. Like if you've never been in the business, definitely find out more about a restaurant before you decide to open up a restaurant. I've seen a lot of people lose all their savings because they put them into restaurants, and then the restaurant doesn't make it, and they lose everything that they've worked so hard all their life for. So take your time, find out more about a restaurant. If it's volunteering on your spare time or whatever it is, so that you actually want to do it, or talk to someone who's been in the restaurant business and they can tell you. You may think they're being negative, but they'll tell you the truth about the restaurants, so that you're not wasting like your life savings on building a restaurant and then walking away with nothing.
Yeah, I think that that sort of honesty in the industry of people being willing to be honest, with each other is very important. So, something, and not to be controversial about this, but what would you say, sort of politically, is the toughest struggle you've got as a restaurant? Because clearly taxes and all these sort of things, hydro and all that sort of stuff are brutal.
Terrible.
But meat prices are going through the roof.
Well,
right? What sort of things are you noticing in that trend?
It's going to be huge. It's going to be huge because meat prices have just gone through the roof, and now with the minimum wage going up and everything else, meat prices are going to raise again. Vegetable prices are going to raise. Gas prices are going to raise. So everything's going to be up, and it's getting to the point where even I've talked to a few other restaurateurs where we're like, we don't know what to do in the aspect that we have to raise our prices.
Yeah.
And it's going to become very challenging.
But maybe more people will be able to eat in your restaurant making $15 an hour.
No, I don't think, you know what? I truly think that...
You need to make more than $15 an hour to be out in restaurants early in the job.
But I truly think that the minimum wage going up, it's just going to raise everything else with a minimum wage. So now it's going to make it even more expensive for people who are making minimum wage. So the $15 is not going to be enough.
Yeah. And it's funny because that's a funny aspect, because when people think about that $15 an hour, it's amazing how, $3 or $5 more an hour a day times a year for somebody who hasn't been living so well. That's the difference between Christmas and groceries in their fridge. But the problem is those things are all going to increase because now everybody's getting $15 an hour, and now meat goes up and workers and laborers goes up. So there's an inflation with that.
They're causing just an inflation with it. That's all it's doing.
You always seem so humble and you're kind of quiet, but when we finally get to talk to you, you're a lot of fun.
I'm a shy guy.
Well, thank you for your time today, Marco. It was a real pleasure talking to you.
Thank you.
And I look forward to coming back here as soon as possible.
Sounds good.
Thanks.